So, good morning. Thank you all for joining us today. Welcome to today's webinar, How to Attract and Engage Gen Z. I'm Robin Thompson, and I'm going to be your moderator for today's session. I'm from Advanced Media in New York. We're really excited to have so many of you here join us today because we've got a lot of great information to share, and we've got a team here that's, it's very exciting. So in case you're not familiar, Rieger Marketing Communications is a Binghamton, New York based full service agency. We serve a variety of regional and national clients in the financial, nonprofit, healthcare, education, and B2B sectors. Before we get started today, just a few housekeeping items. Like I said, you're going to hear some really great information today, and we know that there's going to be questions. So we'd like to get them answered during the webinar if possible. The audio video feed is reserved for the presenters only. So we're making it, though, easy for you to communicate with us. At the top of your screen, you should see a Q&A box where you can submit questions. You can add to that at any time during the presentation, and we will try to answer those at the end. If for some reason you don't see a Q&A box, sometimes people have different versions of Teams, you can add your question in the chat, but don't use chat if you see the Q&A because it makes it a lot easier for us to manage. In addition, though, we're going to have a recording of the webinar, and the deck will be available to you as well in an email. So you'll have all access to everything. So in order to get going, let's get started. And if you're not familiar with these little cartoon images, well, you're going to learn a lot more about Bitmojis, which is what they're called, very soon. Today, you're going to hear from three presenters. First, you'll hear from Lizzie Martin. She's an account manager at Advanced Media New York. Lizzie focuses on account management, and she's experienced really in all forms of digital marketing strategy, implementation, analysis for campaigns. And she's one of Rieger's works with partner firm that really helps strengthen their media department. Also joining us today is Caitlin Whitaker. She's production coordinator at Rieger Marketing Communications. Caitlin works closely with Rieger's account service teams and clients, and she builds on her experience in graphic design and project management. And before joining the agency, she worked in web design and development as well. And finally, you'll also hear from Jamie Jacobs, who's managing partner at Rieger Marketing Communications. Jamie started her career as a Rieger intern, and she advanced to account executive and is now one of the firm's managing partners. She's a copywriter and project manager at heart, and she serves clients from a wide range of industries. So, without further ado, and to get us started, I'd like to introduce Lizzie Martin from Advanced Media New York, who's going to talk to us about how to attract and engage with Gen X.
Thank you so much, Robin. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on your lunch break today. We hope this will be fun and engaging and a great way to spend the hour. All right. We're used to thinking of ourselves, at least for me as a millennial, as the youngster, the newbies, the pre-adult. But our time playing that role is past, and now it's time to pass the baton to Gen Z. Gen Z is considered to be anyone born between 1997 and 2012, or they're 11 to 26 years old, compared to millennials like me who are ages 27 to 42. Gen Z is a smaller range than previous generational groups because culture and technology are changing at a faster pace. And so the generations will now too, because they're not just about age, they're also about cultural and contextual differences. Gen Z has strong opinions, unique tastes, and a growing buying power. They are younger, but they're not babies anymore. They're buying things, they're starting to make their own money, making donations, and some of them are even leading companies. Consider how social media and smartphones have empowered people to become consumers at a much younger age, especially with this generation. Gen Zers have grown up in a world that's more racially diverse and with less traditional families. So they tend to be more progressive thinking. They also spend more time online than any other generation has for obvious reasons. But here's some not so obvious things to consider about them. They're very good at filtering out what's not important to them. Growing up amidst the chaos of a lot of information, too much really, they learned quickly that they have to tune a lot of things out that aren't worth their time. So you have to be very relevant to them in order to not get filtered out. They also have a short attention span, so we want to be brief when we're appealing to them. And they're natural at personal brand building. Personal branding is an intentional effort to create and influence the public's perception of an individual by positioning themselves as an authority in their industry, elevating their credibility, and differentiating themselves from the competition, with the ultimate goal of advancing their career, widening their circle of influence, and just having a larger impact. Previous generations understood the power of a personal brand, but it was a much heavier lift. We didn't have as many tools available to us, which made it a lot harder to actually do well. For Gen Z, who've grown up with smartphones in their hands, it's effortless. There are many ways that we can appeal to Gen Z now that you know who they are. And I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin to give you some more insights into what Gen Z wants to see in your marketing.
All right, thank you, Lizzie. Hello, everyone. So I was actually born in late 94, so technically right at the end of the millennial generation, but very close to the start of Gen Z. So I can relate to many of these Gen Z preferences, but I still got to grow up with the VHS tape and the floppy disk. So I like having this multi-generation perspective, and I'm happy to be sharing it with you all today. So what does Gen Z like to see in their advertising, and what influences them to become a customer? Some of it might actually surprise you. Today, we're going to go over Gen Z's love of bright colors, personalization and inclusion, nostalgia, and storytelling. We all have our favorite colors, and certain palettes have become trendy throughout each generation. Baby boomers tend to prefer neutrals and classic colors that communicate a sense of trust. Gen X prefers similar colors, but they're more open to adding in brighter hues. Millennials embrace slightly more energetic colors and are actually very loyal to brands that use them. Think multicolored iPhones, iPods, and now Gen Z mostly gravitates towards colors that are very bright and very high contrast. I tried to dress for the occasion today. The most popular colors for this generation are going to be sunshine yellow and grass green. They like to see design that is very energetic, and with an abundance of advertising being thrown at them from all kinds of media, your advertising needs to visually stand out. As Lizzie said, Gen Z filters through information very quickly. Gen Z wants to see themselves. They want to see personalization, which as marketers, we can address through segmentation. Personalized designs and messages go a long way with Gen Z, and technology is making personalization easier than ever. This right here is an example of a personalized college acceptance video. So using different technologies, you can insert the student's name who was accepted to the college. So you can see they'll throughout the video that they insert the student's name. Another company that does personalization really well is Spotify. You might have already done the year in review or the Wrapped, where their technology creates customized playlists and song suggestions and even tells you what songs that you listen to the most. Now, older generations may find this a little creepy, but with Gen Z, they actually really like when things are tailored to them. And let's not forget the power of the Bitmoji. That is these little cartoon guys that we were talking about. This is where you can create your own avatar to use in Snapchat and many other apps. And Bitmoji offers the user various customization options for skin tone, clothing, body type, and a lot more, so that the diversity of each user is accurately reflected. And Gen Z especially values diversity. This is diversity in race, religion, lifestyle, and gender identity. And these are some examples of what should be in your marketing visuals, your stock images. As you can see here, many different kinds of people are represented. The next thing that Gen Z likes to see in their marketing is nostalgia. And yes, I am telling you to look into the past to market to the future. This is going to sound like a contradiction, but it's 2023. And let's be honest, the past couple of years have been really rough, especially on this generation. Gen Z has been growing up during the pandemic, and as they move ahead, nostalgia provides them with a sense of comfort. As Don Draper from one of my favorite shows, Mad Men, once said, it takes us to a place where we ache to go again. And big brands are actually redesigning their logos to mimic the style of a past logo. I was just at a conference and we watched a presentation from Carl Gerhardt, who is the Senior Director of Design at Pepsi North America. And he walked us through Pepsi's latest rebrand, where their goal was to make their iconic past part of their future. Yeah. And you'll notice that Pepsi didn't just make their colors brighter, they added high energy graphics, immersive brand experiences. They could have just made their logo yellow and green, but instead they decided to take what they already had and just make everything more energetic. Now, another thing that seems a little counterintuitive is that when it comes to advertising, Gen Z would rather be engaged in your project, in your brand's story, than be told what your product is capable of. Gen Z is becoming more immune to the sell approach, and product features are important, but they don't need to be front and center in every ad you make. In previous generations, you see a lot of advertising with pricing, the features of your products, its capabilities. And with Gen Z, they want to see more engagement, stories, and characters. So to illustrate this, I found a Rosetta Stone ad from the mid 2000s. And there's a lot going on. It probably wouldn't work as well today with the Gen Z audience. They're going to want to move on very quickly to something that's easier to digest. And this ad features all the languages they offer, pricing, different perks, funny, catchy intro. But it doesn't need to be there. Since Gen Z has grown up with Google, they intuitively know that once their interest is piqued, they can go online to learn more. And on the flip side, we'll stay with the language learning tool. This is current marketing from Duolingo that is extremely effective for Gen Z. And there's no mention of pricing or even what languages they teach. It is mostly Duo the Owl. The idea here is they're trying to sell their product without selling their product. So if I'm one day considering learning a language, taking a trip, and I decide to browse TikTok, I might come and find these videos of the owl. And here's a quick little one. That was Google Translate. And so small videos like that I find really funny and memorable. And so then while I'm browsing the App Store and looking for an app to learn this new language, I see the icon with this little owl, and Duolingo becomes instantly familiar. I'm most likely to choose that app. Speaking of TikTok, Gen Z's love of short, engaging stories is why videos, especially TikTok, are so successful. I know video is time consuming for both in-house departments and agencies, but it's really important and worth building into your budgets if you want to make an impression on this generation. Good quality video is very important no matter what generation you target, but you're going to want to take a slightly different approach for Gen Z. They want to see relatable, honest content, and they would rather see an entertaining video shot on an iPhone than a video that's kind of out of touch that's created with a professional camera. Now, does this mean you have to become a TikTok sensation overnight? I don't think so. If you're marketing something of a more serious nature, don't feel like you have to force it to be funny or trendy. And if TikTok just doesn't seem like a good fit for your business right now, you can still make videos and post on other platforms. I would say just make sure they're visually engaging and authentic. A good example is this ad that was created by Suni Broom, and it was placed by us here at Rieger. So it's very quick, to the point, high contrast colors. So that was a good one for Gen Z. So now that we've covered the visuals that Gen Z likes to see, let's dig a little deeper into what they care about. What is on the minds of the youngest generation? Jamie has some really good insight into this, but I'm going to start the conversation with a hot topic in 2023, which is mental health. According to our Surgeon General, mental health related hospitalizations and even suicides have increased in young people. Contributing factors to this include loneliness and an overload of fear-inducing information all at their fingertips. But the thing about Gen Z is that they're more willing to talk about their mental health than previous generations. They want brands to help them break the stigma and help them start conversations. How can your brand do this in a sincere way? Donate to a mental health nonprofit that's making an impact on your community or industry. This brand of bracelets donates some of their profits to the Mental Health America organization. And you can talk about mental health with your employees and show consumers that you're breaking the stigma in your own workplace. This is a great campaign where employees are encouraged to share their stories. And especially from an HR perspective, Gen Z wants to see that your company will support their own mental health if they decide to work there. And this one is JanSport. They support teenage mental health. As long as your messaging is consistent with your company values, you'll make a big impact with Gen Z. So now I'm going to pass this off to Jamie, who will explain in further detail what Gen Z cares about and how to show them that you care too.
Okay, thank you, Caitlin, for bringing that unique perspective. We really appreciate that. So the second thing that Gen Z especially cares about in their marketing and fundraising communications is somehow getting the sense that they belong. And, you know, belonging, of course, is a basic need for all human beings of all ages. But for the reasons locked into the background and the mental health needs of this generation that Caitlin mentioned, feeling a sense of belonging is especially important to Gen Z. So what helps them perceive that sense of belonging? So while Gen Z's older millennial brothers and sisters felt a sense of belonging when attached to, say, gorgeous branding icons or well-knit loyalty programs, Gen Z is actually not as engaged by those tactics. Rather, they respond better to, I would say, more intensely personal engagements, such as events or challenges, even or perhaps especially online events and challenges that create what they perceive as meaningful connections. So anything that encourages submissions of custom user-generated content is the way to go here. And as an example of this, a couple years ago, Chipotle put out what they called their lid flip challenge. And I'm going to try to play this for you so you can get a feel for what that looked like. And I watched a bunch of you smile as you watched that. That was the reaction everyone else had too. And after this video went out, people were encouraged to try their own lid flip challenge. And it was, of course, not as easy as that guy made it look. And they were encouraged to upload their own videos of them attempting it, and of course, use a provided hashtag. Just really brilliant on Chipotle's part. In addition to hashtagged video submission contests, you may also want to consider, if you have a little less time, something like these voting polls. And Instagram stories are really great for these. So you can see here you have a couple options, this or that format, or maybe you're asking a yes or no question. No, I have not traveled to Venice, I wish. Or there's also the option of a sliding scale format. So you could say how much, say, you are loving our webinar so far, and contribute your answer to a poll like this. The reason tactics like this work for Gen Z is that they help build community, not just between the brand's institutional voice and the individual consumer, but because they also build a community among other consumers, or in your context, might be other donors or other clients. Now, instead of just connecting with you, they're connecting with each other. So that's just an invitation to think beyond maybe that one-way content you're putting out on social media now. And Lizzie's going to talk a little more later about which social media networks you should be using there. But regardless of what network you use, be thinking about multi-directional content, even though that may mean, in all honesty, giving up some control, which I know can be a little scary for some advertisers. But if we want to continue engaging with Gen Z, that might be worth it, something to weigh out. Then what? Once you start engaging Gen Z on social, you'll then have a chance to invite them and ideally incentivize them to join additional groups around your other communications channels. One community building communication channel we see a lot is ongoing e-blasts or e-newsletters. So I can guess what you're all thinking. Yes, email still works for Gen Z, thank goodness. In a recent study by CM Group that we researched on account of this webinar, we saw 58% of Gen Zers get their information from emails and check their emails several times a day. So in the for-profit space, e-blasts and e-newsletters can provide, say, the beginnings of longer form articles and tips. I would just say, make sure that that content is customized and that Gen Z doesn't feel like they could just Google it themselves, because you know they will. eBlast could also offer promotions, new products you're offering, the inside scoop on something, like what we're used to seeing from national advertisers like this. But remember that the way you keep Gen Z feeling like they belong is to intentionally welcome them to the community, keep thanking them for their contributions to that community, and also ask for feedback along the way. In the nonprofit space, your e-blast and your e-newsletters may share a closer look into how donated dollars are spent. Maybe they give a special VIP ticket to your next online auction. And maybe it's an invitation for Gen Zers to submit photos of them volunteering with their team and their friends. Here's a couple examples of the Rieger team doing some volunteering. Research also tells us that Gen Z wants to receive updates from the nonprofits they love via email at least monthly. So don't be shy about frequency there. You're not bugging them. So both Gen Z and millennials check email, but there's a few differences. Gen Z expects A, that you will ask permission to enter their inbox in the first place, and B, that the emails you send be way more customized. And to help be along, Gen Z is more willing than older generations to share information about themselves, their contact information, their interests, to get more relevant offers and content. So take advantage of that. Give them choices on the type of content they will receive from you, and then make what hits their inbox as relevant as possible. So some people may opt out of, say, promotions, but are open to educational articles and tips. Also, you're not done once you ask them for their preferences once. Make sure you check in with them as you go. And for the love, do not hide your unsubscribe link at the bottom and make them go through this whole thing to find it. Instead, make subscribers feel like they're in the driver's seat, creating an engaging design that invites participation. That's the goal. And then make sure your emails are short and sweet, ideally with an attention-getting or a humorous subject line. Have them well designed, like the examples I showed earlier, or perhaps they're intentionally looking like a regular email because it's part of the joke. So in this example, this was an e-blast that was sent to me by my, I'll say Gen Z adjacent sister-in-law, and it's from a cleaning products company. Now, this company knew that she had ordered a pet hair removal item before, and they sent her this email saying, please ignore our last email in the subject line, which kind of caught her attention. And in it was an apology that they hired a golden retriever in their marketing department and mistakenly sent out a deeper than normal discount code, but that they were going to honor it anyway. See, they weren't afraid to have a little fun, and they relied on clear segmentation of data. And I know Caitlin spoke about this earlier. They knew who my sister-in-law was as they were crafting this message, and she loved it. She was charmed by it to the point where she shared this with me when I mentioned that I was going to do this webinar. Regardless of what channels, what tones, what level of humor you choose and might be appropriate for your business, the key to remember here is to continually give your Gen Z customers, donors, clients a compelling reason to gather around your brand, ways to know one another, to experience reciprocity of, say, fun or valuable information, and then a purpose that unites them. And I want to talk a little bit about that last one because I see we have some financial institution folks joining us. So I'll just pick on you for a minute here. You might be saying, you know, look, I sell checking accounts or I sell mortgages. That's not exactly a purpose that unites anyone. You know, we don't cure cancer or anything. But try pushing deeper into that. So think about the purposes, the beliefs that drive your business, how people are maybe enriching their lives by being part of your organization's customer base. And then as an example for a financial institution, when you're advertising to generations older than Gen Z, it might look a little bit like this. This is a few examples from our clients. And you can see there we list the products. We say we have the best mortgage options. Here are features of our credit card. And we talk about those products. There's nothing wrong with that. And you should keep running those ads for older generations. But if you want to start talking to Gen Z, you may also want to aim some messaging like, we are all about how financial literacy will equip the next generation and give them more financial freedom. Or we love that our debit cards help you buy gifts for your family this holiday season. What's the best gift you bought this year? Show them to us in the post below. Another idea would be, you know, we love the dance you do as you walk into your new home for the first time. You know, it's the Serve You or the NEPA Federal Credit Union Door Dance Challenge, you know, hashtag Door Dance, submit your TikTok videos. You get the idea. The difference is these tactics unite people around a common purpose. A cause like empowerment of people through financial literacy, or finding the joy in life's little moments, or an exciting milestone. So think about whether you're a financial institution or not, be thinking about your organization's purpose, and then build social media posts, groups, e-blasts, campaigns, whatever you do, and invite Gen Z to join you. And I can just hear that CFO of the bank in the boardroom saying, yeah, well, that campaign isn't going to increase deposit growth, and it's not going to increase the number of mortgage applications we got this month. Yeah, probably not. But this, remember, is a long game. If you take really good care of those initial touch points with Gen Z, where you help them feel welcomed initially and then begin to grow in their sense of belonging, they are then more likely to ultimately choose you, buy from you, donate to you in their higher income years ahead. Okay, so Gen Z cares about mental health, they care about belonging, and they also care about impact. And I've kind of alluded to this already with that financial freedom stuff. Gen Z especially likes when brands are cause-oriented and passionate about their values. And that means if you're not super clear on how your organization is helping to make the world or the community a better place in some way, Gen Z may be way less interested in you. But this is important to remember. They don't just want you to be a world changer. They want to be one too. They embrace the idea of doing it alongside you, and they want to feel empowered by that. So for-profit friends, listen up. For my nonprofit friends here, you may be saying like, check, done. We already make the world a better place just by our very nature. And to an extent you do, but there might be more you may want to intentionally communicate on this front. So in addition to mental health, which Caitlin covered, Gen Z especially wants to see what you're doing for the world when it comes to inclusivity and equality. They want to see what you're doing for the environment, for the earth. They want to see what you're doing for poverty alleviation, what you're doing for hunger and homelessness, and they definitely care about women's health. That is for sure. They care about dollars your company puts towards a certain cause or nonprofit, of course, but they also care about the way employees, ideally your top executives alongside your lower ranked employees together, they care about how those folks are volunteering their time. Gen Z cares about your organization's internal workforce policies, so the way you hire and treat your employees. For instance, do you make sure you partner with a certain percentage of minority or women-owned businesses for subcontracting, as an example? And if you're a manufacturer, I see we have some Weiler Abrasives friends joining us today. Gen Z cares about your ethical manufacturing practices, how you're sourcing material, how you're being environmentally conscious in the way you're testing your products or shipping your products. Oh, sorry, I gave it away. I was supposed to tee that up. So if you're doing good things about all this impact, make sure you're promoting it and flying it high across your website and your social pages, or better yet, putting it right in your ad messages. So I will give you an example again from a sunscreen company called Sunbum, who does this really well. They launched this campaign all about a cause. They say, we don't care if you use ours, just use sunscreen. Note how they didn't spend ad space listing the benefits of their particular product. As Caitlin said, if Gen Z wants to know that, they will go ahead and Google it. Or in this case, if they just saw this ad on the left, they might be Googling monkey sunscreen, which is what I did because it was a mystery who they were and they had this nice extra tease element. But they did not spend space talking about the benefits of the product. Instead, they used this ad to communicate to the reader that they cared about the big cause of ending preventable skin cancer. Really, really impactful. Subaru is another example of a company that's doing it right when it comes to targeting Gen Z and community relations efforts. They talk about the Subaru Loves Learning campaign, and that's all about making learning more accessible across the country, trying to address the problem of inadequate classrooms by providing supplies so that low-income students and their parents or their teachers don't have to be the ones to buy them. So Subaru is not only giving back to a good cause, they're doing it in a way that's addressing a systematic problem. And they're helping the very students who will then move up to be car buyers, again, playing that long game. And it's implied here that if you buy a Subaru, you're part of being a world changer with them. You're the one making the difference too. Okay, so just to recap, Gen Z cares about mental health, they care about belonging, they care about impact, and they also care about authenticity. 45% of Gen Z say that a brand appearing trustworthy and transparent, and we'll talk a little more about what that means, was a key motivating factor for purchase or engagement. That means Gen Z will buy from and donate brands that make and then keep their promises. So if you're going to talk about things like inclusivity, environmental stewardship, etc., you better get ready to walk the walk too. Because not only do they care about companies who have values and put them first, Gen Z is also more likely than their older counterparts to unfollow, hide, block, or draw negative attention to brands if they sense you are putting up a facade of activism without actually doing anything to help the causes you say you stand for. They call that a shallow veneer. And of course, Gen Z has no tolerance for that. So just as an example, it's June, we're seeing a lot of rainbows on ads. That better mean that those companies have internal policies that support the LGBTQ plus community. And in the same vein, if you show only people of color in your ads, but you don't match that with diversity initiatives in your hiring or your subcontracting practices, that might be a bit of a problem. Another part of authenticity for Gen Z is that they want to see in real life examples of things. So in the past, advertisers would use, for instance, well-known sponsors, or they would get their high-profile CEO to deliver messages because that worked with older generations. Now, Gen Z would rather just hear from everyday employees or a regular old happy customer or donor instead. To give you an example of how powerful an in real life ad can be, I just want to have you look at this one from Dove, showing the real life world of a nurse during COVID. So moving, so authentic, saying courage is beautiful. And this is a soap ad, so I know it's a little different from what we could do for an actual hospital. But here at Rieger, we've supported hospital clients for years, UHS, Lehigh Valley Health System. And the photos of doctors and nurses we've used have never looked like this. Not even close. We've pulled those folks into studios, we've airbrushed and photoshopped them to perfection before even dreaming of putting them in an ad. But perhaps the next generation will have us say, out there shooting a still beautiful but maybe very tired nurse and putting it with a headline like "Caring for you is worth every long shift." So it's interesting to see how the trends may change. So what's your takeaway here? Think about how you can be using more candid, maybe less polished imagery in your next promotion to show that in real life experience with your brand. And if you want some inspiration for ways to show an authentic moment, I would encourage you to also check out the Be Real platform, which is getting more popular with Gen Z. It allows only unfiltered photo posts. I love that. And the network prompts users to share what they're doing every day, in real life. It's like this entire generation is just craving for someone to just be honest with them. And we all crave that a little bit more these days. Okay, so that's the top of the list of what Gen Z cares about in a nutshell. And I'm going to kick it back over to Lizzie now, and she's going to talk us through how they consume media.
Thanks, Jamie. Now that we know a little bit more about what we should be putting in our ads and our messaging, let's talk about where Gen Z is going to see it. Which media can we reach them on? Well, pretty easy guess. We're going to reach them online, but let's dive into a little bit more about where to find them online. There's a lot in this chart, so let's just dive in. First, I want to note this is not the full picture of Gen Z. It is for teens, but that's the up-and-coming customer, and we definitely want to know more about them. What's most common with older generations, millennials on up, is Facebook. We're all on Facebook, but 68% of teens don't use Facebook at all. So the social media platform that the majority of us are comfortable with, it's a no-go for these guys. And we're going to have to step outside our comfort zones a little bit. Luckily, not too far, because if you can see on the chart here on the left, The most consistently used platform for teens is YouTube, and that's pretty easy to adopt for marketing purposes. It's owned by Google, and YouTube marketing is simple as long as you have that really good video content that we've spoken to throughout this presentation today. The YouTube TrueView program is a pay-per-view platform for pre-roll video ads. You only pay for them if people watch them all the way through or click on them. And if they do skip after 5 seconds, it's a free impression. Their targeting capabilities are extensive, including demographics, behaviors, and even drilling down by the keyword phrases that people search. For the Gen Z audience, keep in mind again the visual cues that we've talked about, from the colors to the production style, and remember that the first 5 seconds are going to be key to maximizing a YouTube pre-roll placement. The next most popular social platform is TikTok. That was noted on the right side of that chart. And that's also video based. So anybody who's been on TikTok can attest how easily you get sucked into video after video after video, kittens, pranks, even people get their news on TikTok. So having your own organic content there, as Caitlin said, it can be a heavy lift. It can be a challenge because it is a lot to create relevant videos that are vibrant in order to have that ongoing presence. So paid campaigns are a great alternative as long as you have a well done video. But what's a well done video? When advertising on TikTok, you want your video to be done specifically to appeal to those users. It's not likely that your traditional TV ad is going to translate well if we're following these guidelines. And these are the tips straight from TikTok that they suggest for an ad that's going to get great engagement and fit in really well with the organic content that people are going to be seeing before and after your ad. You definitely want your videos to be shot in the vertical format. You want it to look great on a mobile screen. And that's really what we're used to and what people want to see in a video. It's going to look very strange if you have a wide square TV ad squeezing in there. The other 4 tips noted here, they're really just guidance to give you that TikTok feel, again, so it feels organic even though you're paying for this ad. We've touched on that unpolished, authentic look already, which can sometimes make video creative more affordable to do, but you have to be sure that that you have really good audio and sound and music even, because these are mostly going to be watched with the sound on. The entertaining and trendy recommendations is really just about being creative and having that connection to what's really hot on TikTok and the trends and the memes that are relevant at the time. They do change quickly, so you need to be nimble, but think about how you can connect what's going on TikTok to your business or organization. And there is another way that you can market on TikTok that you might be wondering about, hoping to hear about today. That's influencers. 47%, almost half of all Gen Z women say that they turn to influencers and social media to make their buying decisions. The influencers that people follow really hold a lot of power, and their recommendations can just empty a warehouse. A bonus here is that they're not just limited to TikTok either. Influencers often cross-post to multiple platforms, and that would give you multi-generational reach. You might encounter their videos on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram too. How do you get an influencer to help your business or organization? That's a great question. It's really about personal outreach. First, you have to find an influencer, follow along, and see if they reflect your values and would be appealing to your target audience. Then reach out to them directly with a message that's genuine, requesting a partnership. You don't want it to be spammy. You really want to reach out very organically. Explain how your brand aligns with them and would appeal to their followers, and hopefully you make a connection. I mean, just like with any sales approach, you might have to follow up a little bit. You might get a no, you might never hear back. But if you think this is a good direction for your business, you should keep trying. Gen Z is also a big part of our streaming economy. They consume more streamed content on their devices, like their phones and their laptops and their tablets, as opposed to on their televisions, like some of the older generations. So consider video ads on OTT or CTV. Those are the ads that you see when you're streaming shows and movies on platforms like Hulu, Fubo, Sling, Roku, those kinds of places. There are entire networks that allow you to target your ads, again, by demographic, behavior, or interest. You can target by channel or device, and of course, geography. The streaming audience is much more captive, and your campaign visibility will be very measurable. We've talked a little bit already about how great Gen Z is about knowing to Google things. So you do want to make sure to have paid search advertising as part of your media mix. It's really a foundational element that should be part of every campaign, no matter what generation you're trying to target. But it's especially important to be on page 1 of the search results if you want to reach people who are experts on Google. Ultimately, when it comes to the marketing, TLDR, that means too long, didn't read. It's a reference to, I'm summarizing what I've just gone over for you. And basically, you're going to reach Gen Z on YouTube, TikTok, while they're streaming, and on Google, all of which allow paid advertising so you can reach them there. I do just want to also plug, since we talked about Google today, and I know we have some nonprofits listening in, that Google does have grants for nonprofits that gives you up to $10,000 per month to use for paid search advertising if you qualify. There's an application process, but essentially you just need to be a nonprofit 501c3 in good standing. You can't be a government, healthcare, or academic institution. And you first need to go through the Google verification process to prove you are who you say you are and you're not someone else trying to accept on behalf of your organization. And then you get started with the application right at the website we've noted here on the screen, google.com/grants. And now would be a great time to transition to giving you some more ideas on how nonprofits can appeal to Gen Z. So Jamie, would you like to take it over?
Absolutely. Thank you, Lizzie. Yeah, I just wanted to spend a few minutes and a few slides just focusing on nonprofits' engagement with Gen Z. So first, some big picture nonprofit giving trends. First of all, the forecast is bright. Forbes is telling us Gen Z might just be one of the most charitable generations yet. And I know that's great news for the development directors among us. Gen Z is more likely, the most likely generation to say they donate because they feel it's just the right thing to do. They're not as affiliated with an organized religion, however, but they are passionate about advocating for social change and civic engagement. Gen Z is more willing to cut back in other areas to continue their charitable giving behavior and in many cases increase it. And they are also more likely than older donors to account for charitable donations in their financial planning. So we have a pretty philanthropically minded, if not actually rich yet, bunch here. So what are the things they love to see as they're being asked to donate to your particular charity? First of all, Gen Z loves Giving Tuesday. Most of the donors who participate in Giving Tuesday are either millennials or Gen Z. And I just wanted to give a few tips along the Giving Tuesday lines. Consider a theme. I loved what our client Sisters of Charity of New York did this past year with their Super Sisters themed Giving Tuesday. They had both this cute little illustrated comic style graphic and a series of photos showing the nuns as superheroes. Who said nuns can't have a little fun now and again? Just really cute. And if you can, try to not ask for money in general on Giving Tuesday. Give people a single reachable goal that they can easily understand and feel good about making happen. So you need to buy a van or you need to buy an elevator, that kind of thing. And make sure you use the hashtags you see there on the screen. They absolutely multiply the number of eyeballs looking at it. And then be sure to research different social media channel matching programs. A few to consider. Meta's giving season is a 6-week period where Meta matches eligible donations. And TikTok also has their version of it called TikTok for Good. And that's all about supporting direct donation links to various nonprofits and incentivizing people with hashtags. So 2 good things to look into there. And then Gen Z also loves to tell others how they donated and how they supported and invite others to do the same with them. This is just an example of that. My friend Kate's Instagram stories this last week was encouraging me to easily hit that donate button and join her as she did push-ups for St. Jude's. and Instagram's tools really made that a lot easier for her. This is another example of that sticker tool that people can put right over top of their photos. And this is just another example of Gen Z wanting to be empowered to be a world changer themselves. And they're much more likely to respond to like a GoFundMe page, or they're more likely to rally around an individual grassroots type movement. So whether it's on social or not, the more you can make it about how their donation helps one person as opposed to a big established organization, the better off you'll be. Gen Z also loves the option of giving smaller and recurring gifts. And I don't think that the smaller part surprises anybody, but that recurring is I know, a word that most development directors enjoy seeing. So while younger donors on average give less than their older counterparts, Gen Z gives more routinely, actually preferring the recurring donations. So make sure you give that as an option to them. And of course, Gen Z loves their phones. 16% of them prefer to donate via text, so be sure to include texting in your donation offerings. And make sure your website, like all of it, is mobile friendly, especially the landing page that you're sending people to. Too often we see our nonprofit friends not optimized correctly, so we want to make sure that experience is as frictionless as possible. So in closing, I know we're coming up to the end here. As you go from this webinar and you start implementing these new tips for your business, your charity, just keep considering which aspects of your marketing strategy might be ready for that Gen Z revamp. So just a couple questions you might be asking from this content. Could you be more open about how your brand gives back and supports nonprofit causes? Do you need to rethink your approach to video content in the year ahead? Are there any social media influencers with solid ties to Gen Z you might want to be teaming up with? And is it time to rethink Giving Tuesday and maybe add a TikTok element this year? So keep thinking about those Gen Z questions as you go from this hour we had together. But before we break, I know Robin has some Q&A for us, so I'll turn it back over to her.
Thank you so much, Jamie. That was great. So much great information here. So we did have some questions that we've got here, and let's try to see if we can get them answered. So I think this was early because this is for you, Jamie. So someone's saying, do they only need to shoot like iPhone video now?
Okay, so, iPhone level video has kind of changed over the years. Like now it's pretty good, but I think the spirit behind that question is, can I spend a little less on video production than I used to? And I think the answer is maybe. I would argue even if you're trying to show that in real life or less polished look, you still want to invest in the strategy behind the message, making sure the talent is right, making sure the, as Lizzie said, the audio quality is still right on. Gen Z doesn't have a lot of tolerance for low quality audio there. So I think it's probably the same investment for video, but I would suggest that you spend money on more shorter videos, so you'll have more number of videos in the end, but shorter in length. Hopefully that answers the question.
Another question. How do you find Gen Z people who could contribute to the strategy behind a campaign? Your company.
I can take that one,
Okay.
and feel free to chime in if you have other thoughts, ladies. But I would consider looking into internships at your local colleges. At Rieger, we've really benefited from that. I was an intern, Caitlin was an intern, my business partner Steve was an intern, and ask them, even if it's just, hey, come up with some social media ideas for us or for our clients. We use a tool called Handshake to connect with local colleges, and it basically is like online dating for companies and interns. So yeah, I'd encourage you to do that to get that perspective.
Okay, great. Caitlin, I think this one is for you. Is TikTok getting banned?
Um, keep your eyes on the news. This topic seems to be in constant debate. I do know it's been banned in India, I believe, and certain colleges, government agencies are banning it from their Wi-Fi networks. And Montana actually just banned it effective next year, but stay tuned because that's gotten a lot of backlash. So the future is pretty uncertain, but so far that hasn't stopped people from using it. It hasn't stopped people from advertising on it. My advice would be to keep your campaigns diverse and don't put all your eggs in the TikTok basket. Um, create campaigns that can work across many different platforms. As we discussed, there's still a lot of other tactics to appeal to Gen Z. So that's what I would say.
Great.
And I'll just piggyback on that slightly. I think even if they ban TikTok, the spirit of, vertical videos that are funny and short and engaging, I don't think that's going anywhere. It would just be another network popping up doing the same thing.
Well, then this question kind of goes into it then. Does Gen Z still respond to digital display ads?
Oh, I'll take that one. I don't have stats or number off the top of my head to speak to, the rate at which Gen Z engages with display, traditional display. Um, you could certainly, with a well-targeted campaign, reach just about anybody, right? But I think what we covered here today kind of shows that there are platforms where we know they're at, where we know they're engaging, where we know you can have an ad format that will connect with them better through especially video. And I think if they're really important to your business or organization, you should really consider focusing on that, not just trying to force, more traditional advertising, that square peg into a round hole.
Great. Thanks, Lizzie. And I think this is the last one, but what does Gen Z think about AI, artificial intelligence? Caitlin, I think you talked a little bit about that.
Yeah. I'll. Um, that was another hot topic in the conference I went to, and it's again all up in the air. Stay tuned. So it's hard to give a concrete answer, but we at the conference we talked about how what happens in the next few months, few years is going to really determine the long-term future.
Okay,
I was on LinkedIn, and Gen Z is hopeful about it, but they do still have their concerns about taking jobs from artists, writers. So, yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah, I think we're all in that boat together, not just Gen Z, right?
We are. Well, we're really approaching the end of our scheduled time. We want to thank everybody here for coming. Watch your email. You will get a link. We do have sources of where all this material is from, but the link that you get will have both the video and you'll also have the deck. So you'll be able to see all those sources. The Rieger Marketing Communications team here to help you. So if you've got any questions about the presentation today, or if you'd like a consultation with one of the team, there's Jamie's contact information. You can get in touch with her. And just on behalf of the entire Rieger Marketing Communications team and Advanced Media New York, really thank you so much for taking the time to learn more about Gen Z. Go and make your Bitmojis and have a great day. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.